everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining in today for this session on startup investing. And my name is Tushar Vadera. I welcome you all on behalf of Head Start and the Investor Circle team to be a part of the second edition of this boot camp. And we are very happy to see. I see a lot of known faces with whom we interacted in the last session, and really very glad that you all, took out time to be a part. And today we have a very, very interesting speaker, Arpit, and he is going to talk a lot in this session about the various aspects of investing in startups. And, we'll be taking up a couple of questions from you all to address all the concerns. And I would also like to introduce Gautam, with whom we interacted in the last session as well. Before we start interacting with Arpit, I would really want Gautam to address you all. I see a lot of new people who have also joined. To give them a quick brief about Head Start and the initiative, and maybe for a couple of minutes, I would want him to interact with you all, and then kickstart our discussion with Arpit. Gautam, I hope you're there.
Yes, Tushar. Thank you so much. Like I said, good to see a lot of known faces.
Yes.
Good to see a lot of active, angels as well. Right. So I think, Investor Circle as an initiative is definitely picking up, and intent is very clear, right? So the intention start to run Investor Circle as expanding to about 50 cities, and we're working closely with a lot of startups at the grassroots, a lot of incubators and accelerators in different cities. Something that's very prevalent in each of these cities is the fact that on one side, the most common problem that all these startups and these incubators are facing is the fact that I'm finding it very difficult to raise my first check, right? My first check of 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 25 lakh, that's the most difficult check to raise. And a lot of startups end up, winding up because of that. And on the other end, a lot of HNIs keep reaching out to Head Start, our teams, telling us that, they would love to, invest in startups, just that they, A, haven't figured out the right startup to invest in, B, they don't know the intricacies of investing in startups, right? So investing in the capital market is a lot more easier. You can use various apps to invest in the stock market these days. So, how do you invest in startups? What kind of startups do you invest in? A lot of questions that keep coming to us. So I think that's where, we felt, why don't we, act as a bridge between both the sides, right? So on one end, we work very closely with startups and incubators. On the other side, we work closely with a lot of these professionals and experts, investors and mentors. So the idea behind Investor Circle is very clear, twofold. One, all the existing investors, how do we, connect them with the right startups that they should invest in, right? Make them discover startup deals or startup investment opportunities, right? And on the second front, how do we, enable more and more people who want to invest but have not invested in the startup ecosystem, more of the aspiring angel investors, right? So how do we enable them with enough learning so that they go out there and make their investments on their own, right? So that is the premise of the entire Investor Circle initiative. The idea is very simple. How can we enable more and more of you guys to, be professional investors in startups, understand, the ecosystem end to end, understand what it means to invest in startups, so that you don't have to really depend on, any of us to make, small decisions when it comes to, making the investments or managing your. The idea to make you, to
I think your voice is cracking a bit.
make investments to support through various mentorship, acceleration programs, and help them scale up, right? Grow positions. Right? So we will have. Okay, I get comments saying I'm cracking. Just a second. Let me just change my Wi-Fi connection, and I shall hope that it works now. Okay, cool. So I'm assuming that it's going to be better now. I just changed my connection. Uh, so the idea is,
Better,
you know,
Gautam.
over the next few quarters, if not, over 2021, we will work closely on enabling a lot of you first-time investors with, these Saturday sessions, right? Every Saturday, we're going to have someone senior from the ecosystem who's been actively investing coming and addressing you. And we're also going to create a forum where you can keep interacting with them, and you can keep interacting with us, you can keep interacting with each other, for you to stay in touch with, like-minded folks who are looking to invest, right? Creating this niche community of investors from across the country, right? So that's broadly what it is in terms of exchanging learnings. Last week, a lot of you did attend, the session. We had Project and Paresh, talk us through beautifully in terms of the entire flow of, or the life cycle of a startup, right? And the life cycle of funding, in terms of what happens right from the day you start till you raise your first round, and then your second round, your pre-series A, right? So, and then also the basics of angel investing, right? So I think the basic concepts were introduced in the last week. This week we intended to go a bit deeper into the conversation, right? So the assumption is, we are all introduced to the concept of angel investing, what it takes in terms of a life cycle of investment, what are the fund cycles, when do you make money, right? What is an exit looking like? So that those were things that were discussed, and now we, this week we're trying to go a bit deeper and discuss with Arpit. Arpit, a lot of is one of the most prolific investors in the country. Arpit is from Bloom Ventures, and Bloom is, if I can take the liberty, the most active venture capital firm in the country. With over 100, investments. And incidentally, Arpit is also a co-founder of Headstart, right? So, and who better than Arpit? Someone who's seen startup investments for the last decade. So with Arpit, we are planning to go a bit deeper into, a understanding the mindset of investors. And the second thing is in terms of how do you build a portfolio, right? So why do you invest in diverse startups? What kind of startups do you invest in? How do you build a portfolio of startups? Very basics or introduction to the art of valuation at your initial stage, right? Because valuation is a very debated topic in the investment space. And we always keep saying it's more of an art than science. So we just wanted to touch on that to understand the art of valuation during a seed stage, right? So that's another thing that we wanted to touch. So broadly, we wanted to go into the investor's mindset when it comes to Arpit's session, and the idea is to also take a lot of questions from you, people who are looking to invest in startups, questions that you would like to have, right? So something that the session is not for, it is not for startups that are looking to raise money. This session is not going to answer questions in terms of, what are investors looking for startups, right? This session is only for those who are looking to invest in startups, and or co-invest in startups. The idea is to enable you to, get all your questions answered so that you can invest in startups, right? So that's broadly the intention behind this session and what we're going to be discussing. And see, in terms of how this is going to be structured, every Saturday sessions are going to be there, learning sessions, a lot of blogs that will be sent to you, and people who are ready to start investing will be onboarded as an investor circle member, and they will be introduced to startup deals, right? So you can choose to keep learning as much as you want, and when you're ready to start investing as a member, you can come on board, and you get exposed to the startup deals that are relevant to you, right? And you can start investing by yourself, or you can co-invest with other investor circle members, right? So that's also something that we touch with Arpit in terms of co-investing, how to identify a lead investor, etc. Right? So the idea is, Headstart will continue to enable collisions here. We will we will look at enabling you as an investor to meet the right startup that will be suitable for you, right? If there are interest areas, if there are areas of strength that you as an investor can add value to the startup, those are the kind of startups that you would like to connect you to as a part of the member of the investor circle. And through Head Start's programs that already exist and continue to be created, we'll be looking at how can we support the startups, through various mentorship and access to future funding and access to corporates, etc., which is the core operations of Head Start, right? Supporting startups through the various programs. So that's broadly what we do. And today we are expanding to about 50 cities when it comes to presence of Head Start. We work in a decentralized way to an extent where there are chapters, and our chapters, there are programs that are defined and designed to support the local ecosystems. And then there are programs that are run at a central level, which help and support the network across the chapters. And we also have expanded to Germany and Finland. It helps us bridge the ecosystems not just within India, but also startups that are looking at expanding to Europe, right, and vice versa, like startups that are looking to come into India. So Head Start is a network. I think this year we've definitely grown and expanded to a pretty large large network in terms of presence. So that's broadly the base that I wanted to set. Also wanted to ensure that the expectations are pretty clear in terms of what to expect in today's session. Just repeating it again, in case there are startups on today's session that have joined by mistake, this one's not for you. This one's primarily for those who are looking at investing in startups.
Great, Gautam. Should we take them quickly through the pointers on the deck?
Sure, Tushar. We could quickly take a couple of minutes and run them through this.
I've shared the deck. I hope you can see that.
Yeah. So Tushar, you can quickly go through it because we've already spoken broadly about it, right? And just a couple of minutes about Head Start to add to it. Most of we've been around for about 13 years now, 14th year. Over close to about 2,000 startup events that we've done, and 15,000 ventures have gone through various programs that we do. It could be the workshops, webinars. It could be the mentorship, the accelerator programs. So broadly, about 15,000 startups have gone through various programs, and many of them have gone on to become unicorn startups. That were a part of different programs at Head Start a decade ago. Right? And these are some of the Tushar, if you can just go back 2 slides. These are some of the corporates that we work closely with, and these are some of the governments that we work actively with on different agendas. You can move on, Tushar. So one of the questions that came was how does Head Start work with startups, and how does Head Start support startups, right? So what you see on the screen are 14 programs that Head Start currently runs as an organization. And this is how we work with the community, work with the stakeholders, right? So there are certain initiatives that are directly with the startups. For example, the Kickstart is what you all will be a part of. Kickstart is a monthly demo day that happens at Head Start, where we curate 5 to 10 startups, we put them in front of relevant investors, and from there, investment conversations happen, right? So Boosters is something where we've been able to curate a lot of startup deals, discounts and offers for the startup ecosystem, and that is something that startups getting funding from the investor circle will also be having access to. Access to a lot of credits and support from the ecosystem. Something that's been pretty active this year has been the M&A initiative, where Head Start has also been supporting a lot of startups that are looking at shutting shop for various reasons. So it could be from an acquisition point of view or even an acqui-hire point of view. A lot of funded startups that are looking at acqui-hiring or acquiring startups. It happens through the Head Start M&A initiative, where we also work closely with a lot of VC firms and enable startups to find a buyer. Right? The Head Start mentor and cohort is something that will be relevant for a lot of startups that get funded through the investor circle. They go through a structured mentorship program or a micro accelerator program for a period of 12 weeks, primarily focused on growth, right? Sales growth, or it could be a product related problem or a challenge and the idea is to give them access to the mentor pool that we've built, and get them out of the challenge. Right? So that's broadly what it is, and you will find a lot of webinars that keep happening, workshops that keep happening every week, and in fact, I think HeadStart has also been hosting a lot of these in vernacular. Uh, so this week and next week, you will have a lot of webinars happening in Hindi, in Malayalam, in Telugu, to also cater to the audience that, or entrepreneurs that are comfortable in the vernacular. So I think there's a lot of effort that HeadStart is putting in terms of bridging the ecosystem and enabling the ecosystem. I think the best part is it's completely by the community for the community, right? So it's by a bunch of volunteers from the ecosystem, people who come with a background of being entrepreneurs or supporting entrepreneurs. They are tech or VC background. It's volunteer driven, people who give 10 to 20 hours a week, for the sake of the community, right? And just to keep things in perspective, HeadStart is a non-profit, but it does have revenue streams, so that the money that HeadStart generates can be plowed back into helping the community, right? A lot of money that HeadStart makes from certain initiatives or from the metros, we plowed back into the 2025 other smaller cities where HeadStart probably doesn't make money, but it has to support startups, right? So broadly, that's the framework, completely run by volunteers, about 150 active volunteers, each person putting in about 10 to 20 hours, and whatever money HeadStart makes gets plowed back into different programs for the community, right? So that's a structure, and which is where I think we will also have certain membership models, which ultimately uh, you know end up handling the operation cost of supporting the ecosystem. So that's broadly the background to HeadStart. Tushar, if there's any other slide, you can just run it through. I'll take a pause here, and we'll probably quickly take a question or two that they have, basic questions about Investor Circle, before we get started with Arpit's session. So at this point, I'll take a pause. If there are any questions specific to Investor Circle or in terms of HeadStart itself, I'll probably take it now with the flow. And then what we'll do is we'll at one shot get into Arpit's session. And what we plan to do is, next 1 hour is going to be with Arpit, and then we'll keep it as interactive as possible. Today, a lot of questions that keep coming up specific to him. You can keep asking on chat, and we'll keep taking it up with him. Again, like I said, this is specific to all of you who wish to invest in startups. This is not for you if you're looking to raise funds for your startup, right? It is only for aspiring investors who are, part of the investor circle or learning to be a part of the investor circle to invest. You can, learn here, invest on your own. It doesn't matter. But the idea is to enable you to make as many investments as possible in the startup ecosystem. Tushar, is there something that you would like to add at this point?
Yeah, I think I was getting a couple of queries regarding, the overview of this startup ecosystem, and maybe the next, like how do we as HeadStart visualize, the next 5 years in the Indian startup ecosystem and the potential. So maybe a couple of minutes if you can talk on that.
Sure, Tushar. So I think, broadly, HeadStart also has been helping or working with so many stakeholders, right? So we work closely with about 40 venture capital firms and, about 80 different incubators. We work with multiple government agencies. So, and, presence in about 50 different cities, right? So we've got a bird's eye view on how the ecosystem is, is progressing. And in my personal view, I think, the next couple of years, this is perfectly suited. We're going to see a lot of new startups that are coming up, in terms of, in India, especially the tier 2, tier 3 cities, the non-metros. I think, we're going to see a lot more startups coming up. In a way, the support ecosystem is also maturing, right? So I think access to seed fund has been an issue, and that is something that, HeadStart and a few other organizations are looking at addressing. So that is something that I think will get addressed soon. But something before that, which is how do you even get startups to get fundable? I think there's a lot of effort that government as well as various incubators are putting in, right? So we've been working with a lot of incubators, and I think Tushar also put up a post on the screen where a lot of incubators are supporting the Investor Circle initiative itself. So something that I can say is there is a lot of effort on strengthening the incubator ecosystem in India. And that's something that all of you should also look at. There are a lot of startups that are graduating out of incubators, and a lot of them are pretty good quality startups, right? So with the improvement in the incubator ecosystem over the next 1 or 2 years, I see more and more startups successfully raising their first check. And I think that is where, if more and more angel investors are also ready in terms of how to make that investment, how to identify a startup that is relevant to you, we would be at a perfect place where more startups end up moving to the next stage, raise their pre-series A and scale. Right today, the maximum death happens even before the first check is raised. But I think with the increase in incubators and the improvement in the quality of incubators over the next year or so, we're going to see more and more startups that are really sustainable, right? And the first check that all of you end up writing is what is going to give them the impetus for growth. So that's broadly what it is in terms of the ecosystem. Uh, so for people who are ready to start investing, what will happen is you will just let us know. Be in touch with Tushar or me. After this session, we will also drop you a mail with a link to a form, with a bit more details, uh, so that whatever it takes to get you prepared and put you in front of deals, right? So that's a process that we'll take up one-on-one with you, right? So anyone who feels they want to continue learning, you can use these Saturday sessions to continue learning. Stay in touch with us. We'll give you enough reading material as well. For those who feel you want to start getting hands-on, you want to start exploring investing, uh, get in touch with us. We will, start onboarding you as a member in the active investor pool, and start getting you access to the first set of deals uh, as early as this month, right? So that shouldn't be an issue. So yeah, I think I ended up taking a couple of questions from chat also. Uh, Broadly, that is what it is, Tushar, in terms of the ecosystem. And I did answer a couple of questions on Investor Circle, how someone can be a member and start investing. So I think just one final point before we get started with the session. Uh, I think it's very important for all of us to make some or put some effort in understanding the startup ecosystem before we turn investors, right? Uh, End of the day, all of us want to make money. All of us, when we put in the 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 50 lakhs, whatever, we're putting that money because we get an ROI out of it, right? We get a return out of it as an investor. Though we may be really passionate about startups, we don't want that money to be lost. So my sincere advice for all of you is, while you put in the money, also take in the effort to understand the space that you're putting in, right? Try to understand the startup ecosystems, figure out what is happening there, stay updated with the startup ecosystem. And that is the least that we can do before we go and park, our hard-earned money in, in a space or a sector that's new to us. So that's, the closing point that I wanted to leave before, diving into the session for the day. Right? Like I set the context right at the beginning. The idea is to enable each one of you to become investors and invest in startups, and which is why today's session is with someone that I totally respect, Arpit. In my view, one of the best investors in the country, and if I may take the liberty again to say, part of the most prolific venture capital firm, with over 100 investments that Bloom has put in. And Arpit himself has been supporting so many of the startups in the Bloom portfolio, right? So, and for a lot of you who understand the startup ecosystem well, how much Bloom is respected as a VC firm, as a founder first firm, right? And what makes it even more closer for all of us today is the fact that Arpit is not just one of the leading investors in the country, but also is the co-founder of HeadStart, right? So it makes that entire thing a bit more sweet for us. Thank you so much for joining, Arpit. We took the liberty of the last 20 minutes of setting the context, telling the people about the startup ecosystem, and then diving straight into the conversation with you.
Gautam, as you rightly pointed, it is always a pleasure to do something with HeadStart. I can go out of HeadStart, but HeadStart cannot go out of me. So that will always remain the case. And and thank you for giving me this opportunity to reconnect. I see that we have more than 80 participants here on this call, and my warm hello and good afternoon to all of these people who are attending. I'm hoping that the next 1 hour that we will spend, or a half hour that we will spend together, will be very useful for all of you. And so the best thing that we can do, I was hoping that if we are a smaller group, we can go for introduction, but not possible right now. But I would love to, if you have any question at any point of time, my eye will be on the chat window or the Q&A window. So please keep asking questions. I would love to know, when I'm being useful and when I'm going off track, because it will be most useful. And the only purpose we are doing this is to enable more and more people in India to become angel investors and add to the ecosystem. So Gautam, shall we start right in?
Absolutely, Arpit. Like you said, spot on. The only intention of these sessions that we do is to enable more and more of these people. And I'm really happy to see 81 people join today's session. Some very familiar names from the ecosystem who were there on the last week's session as well. So Arpit, let me dive straight into angel investment, right? So in your view, as a very active member of the startup ecosystem in India, how do you see the entire space of the first check being signed? What, according to you, is the status or challenges when it comes to from a startup's point of view in terms of raising the first check? How easy or difficult are you seeing the ecosystem today?
Okay, so before I take that question, Gautam, very good question and very important, very pertinent. Let me also tell you. Let me tell just to give context for everyone. It will be useful to see. It will be useful to understand from broad context perspective as to what is startup and what is startup funding. Just to give some terms to this. So a startup is a company is any other new business. If you're opening a restaurant, you could call it a startup. If you're opening a food chain, you could call it a startup. If you are opening a brand, you could call it a startup. Let's say hair oil brand could be called a startup. Or if you're doing something very, very fundamental about science, which may or may not see any revenue, can also be called startup. So startup is sort of a all catch-all word for many different businesses. But typically, we are talking about startups which are technology-led, or technology becomes a very important part of their life. It may or may not be the case for every company which is called a startup. For example, I don't know if you can call Country Delight, which is one of the larger companies, as a startup, because it is not technology-led. Supplying milk has been around for hundreds of years, and that has not changed over the many years. So, can you call it a startup? Maybe, maybe not. But it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that when we are talking about startups and we are talking about angel investing, and in general we are talking about venture capital, the most important thing to remember is that a company is able to grow very, very fast, and two, grow in a very short span of time. Let me put number there so that it becomes easy. So for example, if a company comes to you without any revenue, without any product and so on, this company will only become successful when this company probably has, let's say, 100 or maybe 1,000 crores of revenue. So the 0 to 1,000 is the kind of growth, or it could be 1 crore to 1,000. So at least 1,000x kind of growth is expected of the entrepreneur, and that should happen within 5 to 7 years. So classic venture capital theory suggests that venture capital works in areas which are very, very in areas or which in segments which can show such fabulous amount of growth in a very short span of time. Now, what are the flip sides of this? The flip side is that 98% of most businesses that people will start will not be venture capital oriented, or will never be able to raise venture capital, simply because they are not going to be able to scale so much, number one, or scale up in the limited amount of time that other companies are looking at. So what is essentially what are the venture capitalists doing? Venture capital is a primary job and most of the time we get a lot of startups. The primary job is to figure out which are the right companies for you and what can you do to now pick those companies, and what will be required to be done with them over a period of time. So with this background, and now that we have this context, the question is very apt, Gautam. In India, and back in 2007 when we were starting Head Start, things were very different. In India today, I can say easily about 3 to 5,000 startups are taking birth every year, and much of this is happening in the small towns of India. But of course, the large towns remain the places where most people are able to raise money, and I'll tell you why is that. But the large number of companies are able to are starting up. Many of these companies, when they start up, will want to raise certain venture capital. Naturally, many of them will not have the relationship with the venture capital ecosystem, and they will want to have, they will want to access it. They will want to reach to Head Start or many other places where they want to raise a certain amount of venture capital. However, it is seen and very commonly observed that the reason why people are investing into a startup is not only because of the idea and the entrepreneur's resume, but also to some degree a lot of personal relationship, not necessarily with the entrepreneur, but personal experience that goes behind solving a problem or establishing the pain point. For example, if you are a CIO of a very large company, you would have seen that your company needs a certain kind of software. The moment an entrepreneur comes to you with that kind of a software, you want to invest into that company because you know that there's demand for it. So it is personally felt. So a lot of times people will fail to invest into startups which they can't relate to. That's one important part. The challenge with this is because it is a very personal decision. A lot of times, a lot of entrepreneurs, even with the best of capability, are not able to raise venture capital or from angel investors simply because they do not have that connect with those people, or they are not able to establish that connection. For example, and this is the reason why you will observe that people in small towns are unable to raise venture capital, while people in the larger towns like Bangalore or Delhi find it slightly easier, is because they are not yet the part of the networks which can potentially give them either an inbound or at least allow them to establish some degree of credibility with the investor, whether angel investor or venture capital investor. And what is also heartening for me to see is that over these years, what has happened is there are a few people, while let us say an entrepreneur in Raurkela is not able to pick, find venture capital funding, not able to find angel investors. While an entrepreneur, for example, like let's say people like Kunal Shah, who have proven themselves and have a lot of credibility and relationship with the ecosystem, are able to raise, while the first guy may be unwilling, unable to raise maybe even 15 lakh rupees, while people like Kunal Shah are able to raise $15 million on a very similar paper plan, right? Just because someone has credibility and the network and the ability and proven ability to execute in past, while some other person is still kind of unknown and is struggling. This is very important part, and therefore you will notice that a large number of entrepreneurs in the bottom are unable to access venture capital, while very few people at the top are able to access a lot of venture capital. This is the natural behavior of any venture capital ecosystem. This obviously did not exist because we did not have such proof points, such entrepreneurs in, let's say, 2015. But in 2020, we have a lot of people who have, seen exits, grown companies, have established, let's say a CTO or a CEO of a company which went public, or someone who has shown a big exit, or someone who has, worked really, really hard and earn the trust of their board members. All of those people are able to raise venture capital rather easily. So the question that you asked me was, is venture capital easy for startups? In general, not. Maybe less than 2% of people find it easy, relatively easy. And by the way, even for those people who find it relatively easy, they will probably want more money. So it is not as easy in their terms also. While on the other side, the investors also find it hard to invest into venture capital or companies which are quote unquote startups, because what is a startup is essentially a very different business as compared to whatever else you may have seen. So taking the first question, answering the first question, saying that again, is for a startup, more often than not, it is very hard to raise even angel kind of money on an average. So almost 90-95% startups will never be able to raise, even if they deserve to raise, will never be able to raise. 5-7% will be able to raise. And it is safe to assume that out of 3,000 to 5,000 startups in India, only about 10% have any access to venture capital. Rest of them will continue to work on their own with friends and family and others who they may raise money from. The other side of the equation, which is what most people here want to listen to, is the equation from the investor side. And these people, and most people on this, I'm guessing, are in a similar bucket. People who have seen some kind of business being created. See, if you have money to invest into an angel investing, if you have money to invest into startups, you probably are quite well to do yourself. Naturally speaking, that anyone who has a net worth of less than 50 lakh rupees would not even think about investing into startup, because you would obviously go to mutual funds and public market equity, and you would probably invest into some other asset class, maybe buy a house for yourself. You will not be willing to invest into startups. If you are already in a stage where you have let's say a net worth of, for argument's sake, a couple of crores, and you're saying, okay, I want to diversify my asset base, what do I do? Then you look at a new asset class called startup investing, or the technical term is private market investing. Now, in the private market, uh, there are two kind of private markets. One market is a market which is built by companies which have shown a lot of traction, have become very large. For example, I don't know why it's coming to my mind, but Grasim Industries, now called Aditya Birla Nuvo, they have been around for many decades. They have an existing set business model, and some people would have grown from a salesperson all the way to CEO, and maybe someone on this call itself has grown that kind of person. Those people who have seen this growth have assumed from very beginning that the fact, what will you sell, what will you make, what will you sell, how will you sell, and how will you make profit, has been resolved in the when you have joined itself. Even 30 years back, it was resolved. Someone figured it out. And when you joined, it was not a question to ask. There's already a pattern that you could replicate many times over. However, in most cases of startups, you will notice that these things are not resolved. And there is a lot of discovery: what to make, who to sell, and how to make money is yet to be discovered. But the beauty about startups is that once you have figured out all of these things, then the curve really takes off, right? So what am I saying? I'm essentially saying that any business that you have been a part of, let us say someone is doing a very large trading business, let's say export import business. Let us say someone is sitting in Jharsuguda, Odisha, and he is importing scrap steel and smelting in his foundry and selling finished steel. For the person who is coming from a steel industry and scrap steel industry, understanding how the value will be created in startups is very hard. It is a leap of faith. So for a lot of investors, because they don't understand what are the building blocks, they often find it very hard to invest into startups, because there is no real proof point. In many cases, you may say, oh, this is a great company, I would love to invest in it. And suppose you could not. 6 months down the line, company shuts down. You think, oh, good that I did not invest, right? The point I'm essentially making is this world of startups that Gautam and I come from, and the world where you may be coming from, and I'm sure there are some people from technology industry and people who understand this very well, uh, are essentially very different worlds. These worlds are not different because the fundamentals of business isn't different. Business will require sales, will require finance, will require operations, will require hiring, will require firing. All of those things remain the same, but it is very different in terms of the cadence and what technology is able to build or technology is able to make, which is very unique. And this is the first time in our entire history that we find technology, especially software technology, in a place which is able to create newer and newer industries and is able to rewire industries in a way that we never thought was possible. There's a case in point. There was a company called Exotel, which was very active member of our startup community in Bangalore about 10 years back. And it happened to be one of the companies that Bloom has invested in. This company is basically using software to automate something in telephony. So it's called cloud telephony. Now, who would have thought that telephony will become completely driven by software? But now it is. That question is not even asked. It is assumed that if I want to interact with telephony in a massive manner, I will be able to do this completely using software. Now, when you assume that everything is software, you can build very interesting things. For example, one interesting use case is that when you call an Uber driver, you do not call the Uber driver's phone number, or the Uber driver does not call you. He actually calls a third number, which is a number masking feature, which allows significant privacy, and people are willing to pay for that. That's a separate point. But point is, this is now possible because direct phone line is not a matter. You could rewire intelligently things basis the context of the actual discussion, actual booking that has happened, and then things can take place. This will lead to further disruption, and people will stop having telephones as we know, and may only have phones which are IP led, and there's no need to have and then there could be hundred other things I can't imagine. But my point is, software is causing disruption in a way that we did not think was possible. Why go far? Today everything that we do has impact of technology. The food we eat, the movies we watch, the products that we order online or offline, the kind of engagement that we have with brands, which is on social media, the kind of entertainment, the connection that we have, and over these years, everything is now driven by software. So the key point is that because in presence of software, a lot of things have changed. And this is why if a company which is doing very well, if a company which has figured the product market fit out, it will be on a trajectory that no one can stop. This is the key part of investing into into startups. The follow-up question, Gautam, that people will obviously ask is, okay, so I understand that I don't understand this. So how do I get started? The only answer, unfortunately, I will have for you is, please spend some time. So spend time in interacting with entrepreneurs, spend time with investing into companies, spend time attending Head Start events, and sit in a corner and observe what is going on. Spend time in meeting people, and spend time in asking questions on platforms like these, so that you make it a lot more easy for you. It becomes more familiar to you. There is no other way, unfortunately, to be investing into startup. The only other way of investing into startup is to trust people like us who are managers and give us your money, and we will take care of it. So that is the only other way that you can do. But if you are unwilling to give money to us, or money is not enough because we have a limit of Savius put a limit of minimum 1 crore. If you do not want to do that, then of course the only option is to do one by one, step by step, and give yourself time. This is not going to become anyone's business, full-time business, in less than 2-3 years. So give yourself 2-3 years, do it over a weekend, do it, maybe devote half a day a week. And over a period of 2-3 years, you will have very good connections, you will have very good understanding, and you will probably have a few success stories that you can then teach on a platform like this.
Absolutely, Arpit. I think very patiently explained, and context has been set. So I'm going to get into specific questions at this point.
Sure.
Something that will be burning in everyone's mind is, like you rightly said, we've touched on what is the investment space. We've also touched on how do we start, right? Now that we understand that, we may not know this end to end, we've also touched on where do we start. A quick background, 70% of the people attending today are going to be first-time investors, right? So these are all people who are looking at startup investing as a new asset class. but 30% are people who made a few investments in startups, right? So that's the split roughly. And
Sure.
again, some initial questions in their mind would be, how do I identify the right startup? So, we touched the point on where do I start? These kind of platforms, interacting with people could potentially, result in some startup deals coming my way. But how do I identify the right startup for me to invest in?
Okay. Um, can I expand that question into saying how do I make money from startups?
Of course.
Right. And I'm assuming the alignment about making money from startup is absolutely clear in this room, right? So
All of
let
us
us
are
talk
helpful.
about how can you make money from startups? There is no straight answer. So let me attempt an answer for everyone to see, and maybe we will open Excel sheet and I will take you through some of the numbers, easy numbers. I will not bore you too much. One thing, and these are well-established principles I can explain to you on the Excel. One thing which is very clear is that no one has made money on a startup, on startups one by one. Or rather, if you invest in one or two or three companies, it is likely, most likely, and you can of course get lucky, that you will not make money. And it will go down the drain. Maybe you will return some money and you will probably go back happy, but it will happen after struggle or maybe with a lot of luck. So how do you make money? The established principle of making money is, please have in your mind an allocation. This is an asset allocation problem. Please have an allocation in your mind where you are willing to write up to 15 to 20 checks over a span of 3 years. uh, have at least the capability to write 15 checks over a span of 3 years, just 5 checks a year. Now, when you do this 5 checks a year, unfortunately, the simple math is 15 checks into minimum 5 lakh rupees will require 75 lakh rupees from you as an investment into asset class. And what do you do if you have less than that? I will come to that answer also. But let us assume that you can invest 15 into 5 checks, 15 checks into 5 lakh rupees each. The most important thing to do is, once you have, and briefly after this, we will talk about, I'll give you an Excel sheet which gives you an answer to why is this important and why can't you do with less. The, uh, the identification of a startup is a very important question, and everyone should spend time and energy understanding it. My suggestion is, you should not be in any hurry to invest. When you're already dedicating 2 to 3 hours a week on learning about this, then you have to spend, you cannot be in any hurry. People like Head Start and people like, as a Let's Venture or AngelList or hundreds of angel networks out there will be very happy to take those 2 3 hours and show you 2 to 3 to 5 deals on a weekend. So you take your time, you understand those companies, and you set out some time to think about it. For example, you may have come from mining industry or from a scrap steel industry, and you are now seeing a startup which is building a software which someone in the real estate industry in the US is looking at. It very different worlds. You don't know how it's going to work. So how do you make sense of it? My suggestion is, please take a step back, listen to the entrepreneur, understand what he or she may be able to do, and then think about it. Think about, okay, what are the challenges this may throw? Most of it is common sense. And maybe if you have relationship with the real estate industry in the US, ask people those questions, whether this will be useful or not. But please step back and think about it. While you're spending 1 2 hours meeting startups, definitely spend 1 2 hours reading and thinking about things as to what will be useful or not useful. Once you have thought about this and you are understood what exactly it is, and maybe have slept over it, you will know whether you are excited about this or not. And once you have, first, don't be excited about this without thinking. Definitely spend some time thinking about it, reading about it, and then you go and then you sleep over it. If you continue to be excited about this, then you engage more with the entrepreneur. There is no hurry. Most entrepreneurs will be patient enough to explain more and more to you because they want your money. and you are in a position to ask those questions. So please definitely ask questions till you become very comfortable that now I want to invest. And then after such careful, considered thought, you make your first investment. Now, once you have made your first investment, please do not lose sleep if the company is not doing well for 6 months or 12 months, or after 18 months, it is going bankrupt. Because by default, the situation for most startups, the future of most startups is that they're going to die. So even with your best efforts, your best advice, the founder may not listen to you. You may have made the connection, market may have changed, some new software may have get launched, some competition may come and kill you. All of that can happen through a startup all the time. So please have patience. Invest into one company. Similarly, keep following with other company. Invest into another company. Give yourself a target to say, okay, I will do 5 investments in a year, which means I will have to only do one investment roughly in a quarter. So give yourself time, take it easy, and slowly make your steps. 2 things that you should not do. 1, do not follow anyone blindly. Sometimes, some people may say, hey, I am investing into startup, please come and follow me. Unless you trust that person a lot with your money, do not follow anyone blindly. They may be doing it for hundreds of reasons that you can't understand. But just simply by following them is not a good idea. At least do your level of diligence, have one call with the founder, or make up your mind, or read someone, or ask someone, but do something which is like a diligence. And 2, do not invest in a company till you have made up a thesis about it as to why will it be successful. It could be because of market, could be because of entrepreneur, it could be because of something else, but please have a thesis about everything that you are investing in. And it will be a best practice, and maybe everyone here should do it, is to give yourself a write-up. Suppose you have decided to play 5 lakh rupees into a company, the same guy I was talking about in Raurkela. And this guy is a good, smart entrepreneur. You invested 5 lakh rupees in this. You will then be able to just write yourself a thesis. Suppose you invested in January of 21, you write a thesis of half a page and keep that as a record for yourself. Say, okay, why did I invest in this company? So that suppose 18 months later, the company is doing a series A, you are getting an exit, or company is dying, you can go back and look at your notes as to what happened. What was your worldview then? And what is your worldview today? Because of course you become smarter. It is a great learning experience. I don't think there is anything better than learning from your own mistakes or learning from your own experience. At least in this case, everyone will have different views. My guess is that the market is somewhat accurate in most cases, but it could also be misleading you. So please make up your own judgment. Does that answer the question, Gautam?
Absolutely, Arpit. And just a follow-up question to that. So now that we've decided on the base in terms of, we have to cut more checks than one, right? So the basic principle here is, make as many checks as possible. Cut it across 4 to 5 checks a year, even if it's smaller checks, but spread it across, right? So something that I just wanted to add as a follow-up question is, are there some pointers towards what could be a successful method to pick the right startup? For example, what has worked for you? Do you go based at this stage, at the early stage, first check stage? Do you go based on the conviction you have of the founder? Is it the idea? What are those 2-3 things that we as investors should look at?
Okay, great. So let us talk about objective metrics. I was talking about broadly and give context in the previous answer. Let's talk about objective metrics, about what will make a good investment. And this is my experience of last 9 years about investing into startups. How does it matter? How does it work? So back in 2012, I was part of this accelerator program called T Labs, which was part of Times Internet, and they have since shut down that business. And we used to put the first check into the company. When we in fact took some companies, they didn't even have incorporation, so we got them incorporated. And so it was literally first check. We used to do 10 lakh rupees. Later they expanded to 30 lakh rupees, but it was literally first check. So what did we choose? One is that whenever we opened applications, and we had a cohort based system, whenever we opened applications, we always got more than a few hundred applications. So we always had choices to pick from. So this is one good thing that you can do. Second is, when we looked at the entrepreneur, we found that the entrepreneurs who are most ambitious would have shown some kind of proof even before they have come to startup. For example, this entrepreneur may have been to a good college, or may have seen some success in his job or her job, may have started something in past, and so on. So there is at least a proof that this entrepreneur is willing to live life on their own terms, right? Like before you go to an entrepreneur, before a founder becomes a founder, he or she has gone through a lot of struggle in their head, and they have figured out that the only way to solve for that struggle is by taking the matters in their own hand and by starting up a business. That is a very important factor. Please keep in mind that an entrepreneur who is willing to persist, an entrepreneur who is willing to persist, is probably more important than an entrepreneur who has better ability to execute or proven ability to execute. Because my point simply being that even if you have proven ability to execute, this is a new business by design, and therefore you should not simply say, I this guy has built a business in past, he will probably be able to build the business again. So this is probably a wrong answer. So one is important question is about entrepreneurs, what kind of entrepreneurs to pick. And even if you got great entrepreneurs, one thing that has worked in case of T Labs and also in Bloom is, even if you get great entrepreneurs, you cannot make a very large business, especially if you're gearing for large, if this is optimizing for large, until there's a very large market size. So, in fact, long time back, I remember reading a post from Mark Anderson when he was a blogger and not a venture capitalist. When he used to write, he wrote that market is more important than founder team. And a good founder with a bad market is average outcome. A great market with average founder is still great outcome. Because the market is going to determine whether you are going to make a lot of money or not. That is my considered learning, and after some thought, I've now concluded that while entrepreneur is very important because you're betting on that person's ambition, it is very important to focus on the market and the market size. That is extremely important to look at. Okay, can it really become very large? In India, it is often felt, and this is the third piece. So three pieces, Gautam: founder, market, and third piece I'm talking about. In India, we have seen that the companies which are in the right sectors, or the companies which are executing a business which is very unique in itself, will be able to raise venture capital, because the rest of the industry is somewhat very organized. So you'll be able to raise money. However, you have to optimize for what the VCs are looking for. So please read and please be in touch with a few venture capitalists. And if not for knowing what they are interested in, at least for knowing what will make a startup win. Please know this world. While you are investing into startups as an angel investor, the world of venture capital is slightly more different. And please be in touch with that people and keep thinking about where is my next round going to come from? What is going to give the company the next round? And how can I use this? How can I use how do I position this company in front of the follow-on investor? So your success will depend a lot on your ability to raise follow-on rounds. So three points to the answer. Founder, very important. Can't invest without the founder. Has to be very ambitious. Second, very, very large market. It is not going to make a lot of money if it's not a very large market. And third, where is a follow-on round going to come from? And having a clear eye on that, although that will happen 18 to 24 months later.
So, Arpit, I think beautiful 3 points, and if I can touch on the third point a bit more, right? Because the third point is what will ultimately define how do I make my money, right? Because without knowing who's going to help you with the follow-up rounds where you can potentially exit, you're not going to book your profits, right? So, if you can probably touch a bit more in terms of when does an angel investor make his exit, and how does he make his exit or make his profits, right? It'll give them a bit more context before we get a bit more deeper.
Yeah, give me one more thinking. It is often, it's okay. What is venture capitalist looking for? See, or rather, I'll answer what am I looking for. So maybe you can extrapolate to most VCs. We probably think similar. I may be slightly different in a few things, but mostly similar to most others. Because we have a lot of pipeline, just to give you numbers, we might be meeting 3,000 different companies over a span of a year, and out of which we might play maybe 10 companies. So our pipeline is very, very tight. So therefore, for a venture capitalist, for a VC, it is a rejection process. Every step in when we are meeting a startup, or even before we are meeting the startup, we are finding ways to reject. The learning is that if you have found ways to reject, and after all the rejection criteria and let's say 70, 80 different filters, if you have come to a place where the entrepreneur has still passed all the filters, then this may be useful to go a deeper dive in. So what are those filters? The filters are market size, ability to execute, us not having a conflict, whether this business will it fits our thesis or not, whether we have seen businesses like this working or not, whether this area is of interest to me or not, and so many such things. Like, for example, does this founder have a good reference check or not? Does he or she come from a good referral network or not? And so on are the filters that I would use to reject the company even before I meet them sometimes, and just after I met them, because they will not pass one or the other filters. It is common that even at my level, and I do not meet companies first these days, even at my level, if I have met 10 companies, not more than 2 companies are quote unquote interesting. And if they're interesting, they are only saying we'll do a little more work and ask them more questions. It is not really a company which is where we are investing yet. This will seem very different from the kind of odds that are there to invest into angel fund at angel stage, but this is how our world is. So a lot of stars have to align for a startup to be able to raise money from us or not. The answer that a startup will not be able to raise venture capital from us is actually very easy. But the answer whether they will be able to raise money from us is actually very hard, because we ourselves don't know. In many cases, for example, we are doing this business full time. So we have challenges like, I am over indexed on, let's say, edtech, or I am over indexed on deep tech, or I have a startup in my portfolio which is doing very well, and this particular company will compete with that 2 years later. You cannot optimize for this. So don't even try. What you should do is you should have a network with venture VCs and say, is it a large market? Yes. Is this entrepreneur, an entrepreneur that VCs generally want to back? Yes. And is this a business which has significant differentiation as compared to its counterparts? Then yes. Okay. These are the only 3 things you can optimize for. And the only other thing you can do is to network, is to cast your net very wide, where you can push this company onto, let's say, 10, 15, 20 different VCs. And because all of us think slightly differently, maybe someone will find the spark and will be willing to invest into that company. For example, EdTech wasn't very hot till 2 years back, but today it's become the darling of the market because, EdTech has grown very fast. And things like this will be an important factor. It will be almost impossible for you to assess whether a VC will invest into a startup or not. We have been also we are finding it very hard to assess whether more VCs or later stage VCs will invest into our companies or not. It is not a science. It is a art. So if a company is able to raise more money, it is precious. Please keep helping them. Keep making sure that this founder is thinking of you as well. And once you get an exit, please try to take an exit. That probably won't happen in Series A. It will only happen in Series B or so.
Right. And just 2 quick points on this. One is, as an angel investor, let's say the average ticket sizes that we're seeing, the first check that many startups end up raising, let's take an example of 20 to 30 lakhs, right? Being a first check, maybe up to 50 lakhs. What is the funding cycle that you typically see? This I'm trying to bring it for, a lot of first time investors. to understand, if I'm putting in this money now, what is it that I need to keep in mind? Is it 18 months, 36 months, 72 months? What is a typical fund cycle? When after what time would the next set of investors come in and I move out? So what is the cycle typically like for an angel investor?
Okay. If you're okay, I will take maybe 5 minutes to go through an Excel as well, because this is the point that we should bring that in. Okay.
Sure.
So guys, I've opened an Excel. Sorry, I was meaning to come to you after I have done some work. Unfortunately, I have not. So I'm doing it from scratch. It will just take me 2 minutes to populate this. Okay. So let us say your amount invested per startup is 5 lakh rupees. Suppose you have decided to invest into number of 5 companies per year, right? And so this is typically what you will invest in. Now, what I know from the market is the seed investing. Suppose 100 companies raise seed investing. There is also a stage called pre-series A, which is where people like Bloom play. You can call it a small A also. Out of 100, maybe only 30 companies will raise pre-series A. A will happen in, let's say, 15. B will happen in, let's say, 10 or maybe 7. Right now, this stage is where you will make an exit. This is where you will enter. Just to give you a rough timeline, this is January 2021. This will typically be, let's say, July of 2022. This will be another 1.5 years. So Jan of 2023, no, 24, and another 1.5 years. So July of 2026. 2025, sorry. So this is where you are talking about. So we are talking about 100 investments made, and out of which only 7 able to raise Series B. We are making an assumption that only at Series B you will find an exit. And in terms of valuation, if you are entering, let us say, at about 5 crores, pre-Series A will value a company at about 25 crores. Series A might value a company at about 60 crores. And Series B value a company at about 30 crore, 300 crore, about 150 crores, right? And your stake at this company will probably, if you had 100 shares, will go down to, let's say, 75 in terms of stake, then further 25% dilution, which will be, I'll just put a formula. So if you started with roughly 100 percentage points, you at Series B, you will have 42 percentage points, and the same value. So this will be, so roughly 500 is going to become 6328, which is roughly a ratio of 1:13x, right? So this is a rough framework. Gautam and everyone, please look at this. If you want me to, I should just expand this so that everyone can see. Okay, now this is where a typical cycle will happen, right? While each investment has a potential of giving you an exit at 13x, and by the way, not counting tax here, you will also have to pay long-term capital gains tax separately. But another important part is that out of 100, only 7 will give you an exit. So if you notice, the way the odds are stacked on an average is that if you have invested into, at seed stage, 5 lakh rupees into 100 companies, at Series B, the value may be 150 crores, but only 7 will give you a return. So in the kind of somewhat pessimistic scenario that I have painted, even though one piece will deliver you 13x, but the probability of that happening will be 1 in 15. Do you understand this? Now I have painted this somewhat pessimistically, but suppose I change this. Suppose I change this to 50, this to 30, and this to 15. Okay. Now in this situation, what is going to happen is that this ratio is dramatically better. You're talking about 6.67 ratio while this is 13x. The point is, if you are able to make an investment into a startup, there is a very good chance, 1 in 7 chance that you will make an exit. And when you make an exit, you will end up making exit of about 13x is the argument that I'm making. So it is important to spread it out. Now, it is the assumption clearly is that when you are making an investment, any of these 100 investment that you're making, when you're making investment, it is almost unsure. It is almost unsure whether you're able to pick that one company which will give you a series B. But if you have picked, let's say 7 of these, you can assume that one of them will get an exit and the result will be 13. So effectively, you are saying, I will put 5 lakh rupees into roughly 7 companies and my investment will be 13, 35. And after roughly about 3 to 4 years, I will be able to get one company will deliver me return, which is equal to 13 times my investment, which is 65 lakhs. So that is the core theory of investing as an angel investor. If now suppose it was very suppose it was automatic. Every 7 investments an angel investor does, one of them will become Series B. For suppose that was very clear. Someone guarantees you that happens. If you are making your 3rd or 4th investment, you are not going to get the return that you want. So therefore, you have to wait till the 7th happens. The flip side could be, okay, why can't I make the investment to 7 companies that I see first? Please don't do that, because as I first told to you, please make a thesis, spend some time, sleep over it, and then play by your gut. I'm hoping that this is clear, Gautam.
Absolutely, Arpit. I think anything that we put on a spreadsheet and explain makes it a lot more visually engaging. Right?
Yeah,
So,
I can go on and on this. If you have questions, please.
No, absolutely. We can keep the Excel handy. So I think what something that I would want to touch is, in reality, a lot of the investors in the investor circle will potentially be co-investing, right? So I just wanted to bring that concept here. Unlike investing in a stock market where it's just you and the shares that you buy, and you just engage with the intermediary directly. So here, what could potentially happen is there could be a lead investor, or a person who is leading a round, and there are 3 to 4 other angels, from the syndicate or from the investor circle who may join hands to co-invest. Right? It may happen, or you may be the only one investing. So I just want you to quickly throw some light on both these scenarios, where there could be a case where you're the only one investing in a startup versus you invest or co-invest with 3 to 4 others from the investor circle. What really happens, and what are are there any pros and cons in both sides, so that people know that these are things that they are going to be seeing in the coming months.
Okay. So while all of you and 70% people here, as Gautam rightly pointed, are first-time investors and may not have invested so far, there will always be people who have invested in past. So people who have invested in past, my request is always use them for your learning. Because some people, like there are now super angels in India, people who have done more than 30, 40, 50, maybe even 100 investments, they have a lot of cycle and a lot of learning over the years. So please go and listen to them. They keep doing these talks. I know Sanjay Mehta does a lot of talks. I know Ramakant Sharma also does some talks. I know so many other people who do talks. Please go and listen to them. Try to make a relationship, understand more and more from them, because they are essentially helping you learn the ropes of angel investing. Not saying that you cannot learn it on your own, but you will make a few more mistakes than they have made. So yes, if one of them who you look up to and who you have aligned in terms of thought process, in terms of your liking and disliking, and if one of them is leading a round into a company, that should make a good enough reason to invest into that company, because you trust them a lot. Having said that, as I said earlier, please do not trust anyone blindly. You should make up your own mind, and whether they have the right intent at heart and they are not doing any kind of forgery or fraud by taking your money and investing into a company, please see if someone is investing who you can trust, and that person may give you a good clue to invest into startups. So yes, my vote is up, especially for people who are joining new, to work with a established angel investor so that you can look up and you can play alongside. As compared to this, making up your own judgment, for example, four of you getting together and investing into some companies is a good idea. You can absolutely do that. It will probably require a little more time, and you might end up making a little few more mistakes.
Right. And Arpit, just another very important point, since you're here and something that you understand really well. Uh, the entire concept of valuation in the initial stage, right? So, something that we always keep debating on, the early stage valuation is more of an art than science. So I just want you to touch very briefly. Of course, it's a topic that we can keep talking for hours. But if you can just touch briefly on your thought around it, seed stage valuation, how do you see it, or the first check valuation, how do you see it, so that a lot of these people had this as a doubt before the session. They wanted to know, how does valuation work? Some startups give a number. How do we question them, cross question them as investors? Should we do it? Should we not? So a lot of these things that keep coming up. So how do you position it from an investor's angle? So this family of 70 people that you see are people or family of investors who are trying to take some tips from you on how do you see it as an investor.
Okay. So, Gautam, as you rightly hinted, and I will agree, valuing a startup is more of an art than science. Even at the level of a venture capital fund, we definitely have a good sense because of our experience, but we cannot really say why did we value a startup in a court of law, because it is ultimately a judgment call. What is a judgment call is also to some degree driven by supply and demand of the market. A very hot entrepreneur might end up making 100 crore valuation for the same concept as a very rookie entrepreneur might get 5 crore for. So that is the way our market functions, and one should get very comfortable that this is the order of the day. There is no clear science behind valuing a startup. I have also written 2 blog posts. I've sent you a link of one of these on the chat window. My request is, please go and read that. It is very simple to understand our view about valuation of a startup. There is not much science in it. However, if you are doing the valuation on your own, my suggestion is, do not try valuing a startup on your own. Definitely take help from people who have done it in past, or people who do it for a living like us, and then play into that company. Slowly, you will get a hang of this. And ultimately, all markets are fairly transparent in nature. You will get to know what startup was valued at what number, and then you will get comfortable. But till that happens, please don't value it yourself. Please take a help from others.
So Arpit, I think I wanted to come to the close with the last couple of questions.
Sure.
Right? So so one thing that I wanted to touch on was the entire concept that you brought right at the beginning, which is trying to build the portfolio of investments. So something that I wanted to bring here was in our example, we assumed that someone with a disposable income of about 75 lakhs to be investing. So can we take an example of a lot of first-time investors who would want to probably start playing smaller bets, right, in their first couple of years, right? So just to ensure that they're able to visualize this better, let's take an example, because 70% of them are first-time investors. So let's assume that in the first 2 years they want to play small bets and see how it goes.
So putting a number there. Like? So let's say, will they be able to do, let's say, 5 investments in 2 years?
So if I have to put a number, let's say 10 lakh per annum, if that's even a good number, then I think let's assume 10 lakhs per annum or 10 to 20 lakhs per annum from a small bet perspective. And let's see what does that look like for someone in this group.
Okay, so while you have a constraint on the total amount that you're investing in, you do not have a constraint on, sometimes most angel networks and people like Let's Venture are willing to take even smaller checks. Right. So let's say 2 lakh rupees is also a possibility. So my request is, as much as possible, spread out your bets. Do not concentrate your bets if you are if you have smaller corpus, and spread it out in such a way that you are making, let's say, about 10 investments in 2 years. And definitely do not try to make so you could make only one investment, live happily ever after, and don't care about returns. But we are talking about people who care about returns as an asset class, where they can be predictable returns. So if you are expecting predictable returns, my request is definitely invest into at least 5 or 7 companies over a 2 year period. If required, make it smaller, make 3 lakh rupees per company, but definitely make that many investments. Otherwise, you will not be able to see how this asset class is, how do you invest in it, and you will not become better as an angel investor.
No, I think that's a fair point, and that's something that we would also love to highlight. Where if you're coming in with a certain budget, split it to that 2 to 3 lakhs per startup, but do not cut down the number of investments that you would like to make. I think the most important gem from today is definitely this, right? Try to spread over more number of companies. Use your year one and year two in learning about the space.
Yeah.
Because startup investing is a long term game. It is not something that you come in once, invest, make money, and leave in a year. Right? So I think that's something that we intend to drive home today, where it is a long-term game. Use your year one and year two in learning more about the ecosystem. So if you're constrained with your budget or with the amount that you would like to keep aside for experimenting and learning, do that with smaller ticket size and more companies.
That's the right thing to do.
So, Arpit, at this point, any closing thoughts for a lot of our first-time investors who, in my view, they're going to be having more such interactions over the coming weeks with, like you said, some of the active angel investors in the country. So we're trying to have, some of the active members coming in and addressing some of our, investor circle members. Any thoughts, closing thoughts before, I think 2021, when they start potentially investing in startups? Any thoughts from you at this point?
Okay. One thing that I would definitely like a lot of angel investors to do, and I don't think people do it enough, is that while you have put your money in a company and an entrepreneur, a lot of your experience about doing business will be relevant to the entrepreneur. So without any strings attached, without making it overbearing on them, please make that advice, please pass on that advice and learning to the entrepreneur. That's number one. And two, please definitely help them open doors by providing your network. You may know a few people that can make the life of the business. Ultimately, your interests are aligned, so please spend that kind of time. It is actually more useful for an early stage startup to have good advice as compared to being able to raise money, in my opinion. So please give advice, please be willing to do that, and so on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Arpit. And for all of you out there, Arpit is going to be available. He's a head starter at heart, and he's right here in the heart of the ecosystem. So he's always going to be accessible. We'll figure out the best way in which it's easy for him to respond as well. But the idea is, Arpit, we would all love to see each of you, make your first few investments in 2021. I think the best thing we should do is at the end of every quarter, celebrate together. I think celebrate your first investments. I think nothing like that first investment, which is a very, very important milestone. So I think whenever that happens, we would all love to celebrate it together. I think it's something that's worth remembering for sure. And something at Headstart that we would love to commit for sure is investments that are happening and startups that need support. We're always there to support and help them through it. Something that we've been doing for about 14 years now, and I'm sure whether Arpit, me, Tushar, we all can continue to exist at Headstart. Headstart will exist, and the org will continue to support. So the idea is, as you keep investing, as you keep learning, ensure that you make use of the network that you build, right? And my 2 cents is, do not hesitate to ask for help. Do not hesitate to make use of your network to support your startup, right? The startup that you invest in. Make all possible connections, take all possible help, to see your startup successful, right? So that's ultimately why these networks exist. I think something, just to answer a couple of questions there, in terms of how do you find these deals, again, just reiterating, in the Headstart investor circle, you would be, once you come on board and you're ready to start investing, you would be sent invites to monthly demo days, right? So there would be monthly demo days. There would be demo days based on sectors. So based on your interest areas and areas that your strengths are, you would be sent invites to meet startups, relevant to you, so that you can listen to those pitches and, like what Arpit ran us through, make your decisions, make your thesis on which startups you would like to start investing in, right? So where do you meet startups? And I think that's one of the key areas of Investor Circle, right? Enabling coalitions is what we're going to be doing, ensuring that you are able to meet the right startups relevant to you. And then it's up to you in terms of, making your own thesis, making your own investments. Any informal support, always happy to, advise and support. All of us in the network are going to keep helping each other. But the idea is you learn and you also practice by meeting startups and investing in startups, right? So as a network, we will all stay in touch, so that if there is any startup that one of us is interested in and the other could be pulled into co-invest, I think nothing like it, right? We'll all do this together. So Tushar, thank you so much. Is there something that you would want to add at this point before Arpit and I sign off, or probably if there are any questions that anyone has for Arpit, any final one or two questions?
Yeah, there are a lot of questions that people have asked on chat. If you're okay, let me pick up a few of them. So
I mean,
first question is
good that I remembered about the questions before signing off with you, because I think I'm sure we would have all these guys chasing us on chat for sure, because we're anyways going to keep in touch. But it's good to take all the questions now.
Yeah. So will HeadStart help to write contracts? Yes, of course. You already.
Yeah. So I'll probably quickly answer that. So like I said, we have a few legal partners on board. Some official partners, in Neos, in Grandmark, and we also have a bunch of partners like Accu Legal, etc. So wherever relevant, we will connect the right partner to you and helping you with the transaction. So be it the transaction part, be the legal paperwork. So those are things that you will have access to.
Perfect. So Rohit is asking, do you know how VC firms raise massive funds to invest in capital-intensive startups? Rohit, we are also still figuring it out. So no good answer to that. The only thing that you can do as a VC firm is to keep showing returns. And if you keep showing returns, investors want to keep backing you. Also, please note that we go to a very larger set of global audience, and raising money is slightly easier if you are a good manager across the world, let's say in US, as compared to India, because their interest rates are too low. So the expectation is also low.
By the way, a quick point to all of you, all those who've attended today's session, we've created a WhatsApp group to continue staying in touch and discussing, any learning points after this, right? So the link is on the chat. The next set of questions, I'll quickly just run it through, Arpit. I think, one was in terms of legal supports. Someone from Dehradun has asked, and I think that's a yes. We will connect you to, whenever there is a need for you to, take support on due diligence or legal filings, we will definitely connect you to the partners.
So Richin is asking, Vishwas is asking, what is B plan or risk management strategy startup industry fail to make profit? See, by default, most startups are going to fail. So please note that whatever you do, it is not going to be dramatically superior. My suggestion is do not enter one company for making money, enter a lot of companies, and therefore you will see it spreading out. That's the only risk management strategy that I will recommend.
I think Richin's talking about, startup as a young business.
Yes, they didn't give the definition. Richin, roughly the same definition.
Okay.
Yeah, roughly the same definition. Sure. Jaspreet is requesting connection on LinkedIn. Sure, Jaspreet. Vishwas Patil is asking what diligence on entrepreneur and founder will HeadStart do? So I'm sure HeadStart will have an offering where you will help with some diligence about the founder, because that is a very important value add, and to be making sure that a founder is doing things right by the book and is not taking too much liberty with cash and cash flow and spending on
a big point there, Vishwas, is we keep getting about 100 applications every month, to our Kickstart initiative, which is basically the Investor Connect initiative. So we keep curating it every month. Only about 10 startups are put in front of investors. So there's a great amount of 2 layers of filter that happen before we decide whether a startup should be put in front of investors. So that is something that we will definitely curate before putting in front of you.
Thank you. PP is asking on a direct message to me. How do you spread investments? Is there any mutual fund or investment option available? PP, the only way, there are two ways. One, you invest directly. Other, you invest via AIF like Bloom. And if you're investing via AIF, the minimum check size is 1 crore rupees. Even if you are investing into AIF, my recommendation is do not invest into one AIF at a time. Spread it to at least three, which means that if you are playing into AIF, you need to have minimum 3 crore ticket size. While in case of investing directly into startup, you could start with 5 to 6 lakh rupees today and hope to invest some more over that period of time. So therefore, it is a distinctly different asset class. There is no other way of spreading your investments but by putting smaller checks into one company. So Mansi is asking recommended blogs in general. First time, also you mentioned a guy who became a blogger. Was it Sajid Pai? Who was a blogger who became a VC? And there was also a guy called missing his name. He goes by the name of a junior VC, AJVC. I think his name is Vidit or something. So that guy is also was a blogger and became VC. Blogging to VC is not a very popular method, so please don't try. My suggestion about the blogs. Unfortunately, people in India do not write very good blogs, and a lot of people do not write. So Twitter is the place that you should go to and follow the right people. At the same time, definitely follow people, blogs which are active. For example, Excel writes good content, Lightspeed writes good content, and a few of these angel investors are also writing good content. So please follow that. Of course, you have your story, etc., as a background information. So Lalit Begani is asking, how do you start up? How do you find startup to accept smaller checks? Well, HeadStart is going to do that for you, so you don't have to worry. Any particular hot areas of domain identified as expertise? Well, Galaxy J7, almost everyone is asking, and there is no good answer to hot or not. Typically, these things keep moving after every some time. Yes, Harsha, thank you. Aviral Bhatnagar has joined Venture Highway, a VC fund based in Delhi, and he was a blogger for a while. So yeah, that is that. Then you have any SME or startup stock exchange? Yes, NSE has a SME exchange. BSE has startup. NSE has emerged, and BSE has SME exchange where companies are able to list. But those companies are also larger. They are not like startups. So I'm not sure this is the same thing. Yes, Dev Kushar, I mess up the spelling. Mark Anderson is what I meant. So yeah, okay, good. We are done with all the questions, Gautam.
Perfect. So sounds good. I think we've covered all questions as well. So Tushar, over to you. Thank you so much, and Arpit, thank you so much for your time. I thoroughly enjoyed the last 1 hour diving deep into it. And I think this is something that we enjoy doing. Enabling the ecosystem. So it's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, both of you. It was really a wonderful, time spent with both of you. And Arpit, thank you so much for taking out time and being with all of us, addressing all our questions. So a couple of announcements which I wanted to quickly make for everyone. So first thing is that I've already pinged the link of the WhatsApp group. Feel free to join the group. Some of you are asking for some blogs, and also we'll keep on posting some good, startup investing related content. As Arpit said, that it is very important to keep learning and contacting and networking with other people in the ecosystem to improve your knowledge base. So feel free to be a part of the group, and we can keep connected there. We are going to launch a poll right now to have your feedback so that we can understand how was the session, whether it was useful or not. I'm also sending the link for the next session, which is on 19th. So it would be really great if all of you can join us for this session. We will have one more, event wherein, we'll have one more speaker who will be interacting with us and sharing some knowledge in this particular space. And I have just sent the link in the chat window. I would request Arzu to launch the poll so that we all can vote on the poll.
Yeah, I think the poll is launched. Just a quick pointer here. Every Saturday, go ahead and keep the 1 or 2 hours out for Investor Circle. I think 2021, we are all, kickstarting our journey towards investing in startups.
Right.
And a commitment from us is, we will definitely keep aside our 2 hours every Saturday for you in enabling you with your investment journey. So go ahead and block. Maybe to make it easy, we'll stick to the same timing if it works with all.
Great. Second thing is that I've also sent the mail ID investments@headstart.in. Feel free to reach out to us in case you have any further queries and concerns. And a couple of you were also asking about how do you become a member. So I have also sent you the link of Google form if you want to be a member of Investor Circle. So just for the bootcamp participants, we are going to offer a 50% discount on the membership fee if you join in the next couple of days. And I can also get back to you once you register on the form. I can get back to you with further details and get in touch with you. Thank you so much once again, everyone, for spending your time with us. And I hope that it was a time worth spending for all of you all. Thank you so much. See you soon on 19th.
See you, everyone. Have a good time. See you. Bye, Gautam, Tushar.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Thanks, Tushar. See you
Bye.
all.
Take care. Bye.